Howdy, welcome to BanjoBenClark.com. I'm Banjo Ben. I teach you how to play banjo and mandolin, but this week is guitar, and we're continuing our course for alternating thumb fingerstyle guitar. Now, that's a lot of words. What does that mean? Well, my favorite type of fingerstyle guitar are guys like Tommy Emmanuel, Chet Atkins, Merle Travis, Doyle Dykes, and what all those folks have in common is that they use their thumb to drive that bass line. And we're going to head in that direction. But of course, the intimidating thing is that it's hard to do. And there are lots of moving parts, and I get tons of questions on it. And I have lots of arrangements here on the site for songs in that style, but we haven't had a course to do that yet, and that's what this is. So we're laying out bite-sized chunks. If you didn't watch lesson 1, you need to go back and do that. And then we're going to have skills checks along the way, and then at the end of each one of these lessons, we have what I call a final exam. And that's just to make sure that you have achieved the objectives and the skills needed for that particular lesson so that we can move on. So if you haven't done lesson number 1, go back and do that. Now, lesson number 1, the final exam sounded like this, and I want you to listen to it very carefully. So if you did lesson 1, you were able to play that, and the point of that is to get our thumb moving and then to integrate our index and middle fingers independently and get them working along with our thumb, putting that thumb on auto drive. What are we doing this week? We're calling this lesson Intro the Cinco, and I will demonstrate what that title means. So I'm going to play the exact same notes that you just heard. I'm going to do something different. What do I do different? Listen. Sounds different, doesn't it? Let me play them both back to back. You'll really be able to hear it. Here's last week's final exam. Now listen. Well, all that we did was we started syncopating some notes. So instead of playing everything around the downbeat, we're going to teach ourselves how to play in between the downbeats. And that's when it gets really fun. I think that's what's mostly attractive about fingerstyle guitar, particularly in this style, is hearing all of those notes bouncing around. The thing is, it's hard to do. It's hard to do. So I've got to figure out a way to trick your brain to do that, and I have a way. If you're watching here on the website as a GoldPick member, you just have to scroll down beneath this video preview and see the rest of the 30-minute lesson. Download the tabs, including the final exam. And if you're watching somewhere else, then I would love for you to come over to BanjoBenClark.com, join as a GoldPick member, see hundreds of lessons, including this fingerstyle guitar course. Let's jump right in. Today's lesson is called Intro the Cinco. Now, if I were going to use all of the syllables, it would be Introduction to Syncopation. What do I mean by syncopation? Well, last week, or in the first lesson, make sure you've watched that, we only played on the downbeat. So we're playing in 4/4 time. That means 4 beats per measure. And we established the thumb on that downbeat. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we brought in our index and our middle fingers to learn how to play on the downbeats with that thumb however we wanted. Be able to play middle if we wanted, or index if we wanted. But all that happened on downbeats. But what we have to realize is that there are notes that happen in between the downbeats, in that space. And that would be my blue-collar definition of syncopation, at least for these purposes. It would be all the notes that don't happen on the downbeat. So if you count along with that measure, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, there's also notes that happen in between. We might represent them by the word and. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. So we can play notes there. Now, it's best to demonstrate that first, maybe with our mouths and clapping. So especially if you're in a public library, I want you to do this really loudly. But why don't you clap along with me? Let's just establish the beat of a 4/4 measure. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now what I want to do is I want to hum a note on beat 1, and then let's hum a note in between beats 2 and 3. That would be a syncopated note. It would be on the and of 2. Sound like this. Bum, 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 bum. Can you do that? Bum, 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 bum. Okay, so that's what we want to first mimic with our guitar. We want to get our index finger playing that syncopated rhythm with our thumb still keeping that driving downbeat. Then we'll work in our middle finger and then we'll put it all together in the end. Let's go ahead and throw up the tab here. And actually, you can look at that line of tab there, but I want to do something first independent of that tab. Let me just count for us, and I want us to try to play the syncopated rhythm with our index finger. You see it there measured 5. It happens on the beat of 1 and then on the and of 2. So I'm just going to count along and you play with me. 1, 2, ready, go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Make sure that you can do that with me before we move on. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, can we add that in with our thumb? Well, let's just get our thumb working again first. Play it with me on the downbeats. 1, 2, 3. Slow it down a little more. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now this is going to be measure 5 here. It's going to sound like this. We're going to put the 2 together. Can you do that? Can you do it a little faster with me? 1, 2, ready, go. 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so now what we've got going is a steady thumb downbeat rhythm, and then we have an index finger that's playing a syncopated rhythm on top of that. We might even think independently. The trick is to have it going and our thumb going at the same time. Okay. Now, let's shift that around a little bit because I just want our brains to have to think about it in a little different way. Look at measure 6. This time, instead of playing that index finger on the 1 and the and of 2, let's just push it ahead 1 beat. Play it on beat 2 and the and of 3. Okay? So measure 6 would sound like this. 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now, if we were to play measures 5 and 6 together, that would let us know if we truly understand this. Let's try that together. Ready, go. 1, 2, and 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay? I know it might not sound like music right now, but we're laying down the building blocks that we're really, really going to need. Now, let's increase the confusion maybe a little bit here, increase the difficulty. Let's bring back our seesaw thumb, if you remember from lesson number 1. That's just where we're going to alternate from the 5th string to the 4th string with our thumb. It sounds like this. So we're just making that C chord. So that's what's happening in the bass line of measure 7. But now we're going to also play that syncopated rhythm with our index finger. Sounds like this. Again. Oh, I bet you can do that. Now it's not on the tab, but what if we switch that to play the second rhythm that we learned, playing on the 2 and the end of 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. Good. Now, to finish out this index finger exercise, let's bring back in our alternating thumb. So that's what we're going to do. So now, can we play our rhythms, our 2 rhythms that we've learned with our index finger on top of that? Well, without even looking at the tab, let's try playing the first one, the bum, bum, with our alternating thumb. So let's just lay down the alternating thumb first. This is how I have to do it. Let's just play through that a couple times. Now let's add that index. Ready? Oh, that's good stuff. Now we're getting closer to making music. Now measure 8, all I did was just shift around the index finger adding it with the alternating thumb, it sounds like this. Ready, go. Sorry, I missed that note. Oh, that's good. So now, what we need to do next is do a skills check. So I've written out a little tab line for you that uses everything that we've learned so far. And I want you, when we start the next video, I want you to just freeze it whenever I throw the tab up there and see if you can play it. And that will give you an idea of how much you've comprehended so far, what you might need to go back and work on. Then we'll introduce our middle finger with the syncopation pattern, put it all together in a final exam, and then introduce one more exercise to help cement it deep down in our understanding. If you're watching somewhere else beside banjobandclark.com, I'd love for you to come over and continue this course with us.